Ever wondered how a duffel bag of cash from a crime turns into a clean wire, into a luxury condo, without a single bank ever saying no? You're 26. You enforce the Bank Secrecy Act as a junior anti-money laundering analyst, tracing one $4.8 million flow. And here's the catch. The system catches it only after the money's already clean. $40,000 a week walks in the door of a cash-only car wash that washes maybe 9 cars a day. By the end, you'll know the 3 stages: placement, layering, integration. Almost nobody names all 3. Every dirty dollar moves through them in order. And exactly why every alarm rings a beat too late. But first, picture the dirtiest, simplest door the money can walk through. Here's the problem every criminal has. Crime pays in cash, and cash is the one thing you can't safely keep. Drugs, fraud, bribes. It all lands as physical bills in a duffel bag where any cop or audit can find it. So in a strange way, all that cash is almost useless to him as it sits. You can't buy a $2 million condo with a duffel bag of 20s. You can't even put it in a bank without a paper trail. The seller, the bank, the title company. What's the first thing every one of them asks? Where it came from. So the dirty money has to make a journey. It has to lose its fingerprints and pick up a clean story along the way. That journey has a name and a shape. The global standard setter for this, a body called FATF, breaks it into 3 stages: placement, layering, integration. The whole game? Moving $1 through all 3 stages before anyone connects the dots. Your job is to connect those dots. You start where the cash starts, the front business. A cash-intensive business is the perfect front. A car wash, a nail salon, a laundromat, a vending route. Why those? Because nobody can ever prove how many cars you actually washed. There's no inventory, no receipts a customer keeps. It's pure, untraceable cash. So the dirty cash gets quietly mixed into the real till at the end of every shift. 40 grand of crime money rings up right next to 9 real car washes. On paper, it's one big stack of honest revenue. This is placement. Stage 1, getting physical cash into the banking system without tripping an alarm. It's the riskiest step of all. But the moment that cash touches a bank, there's a tripwire waiting. Any cash deposit over $10,000 makes the bank file a federal form. It's called a currency transaction report. Cash over $10,000, the teller files it automatically, and the government gets a copy. No exceptions. So how do you dodge that? You never deposit over $10,000 at once. You break it into pieces, each one under the trigger. 9,500 here, 9,200 there, 8,800 at a third branch. Always under the line, always on purpose. Spread across a few branches, a few days, a few names. This has a name too, structuring. And here's the part nobody mentions. Structuring is itself the crime. You don't have to launder a dollar to commit a felony. Breaking the deposit up to dodge the report is the felony. Section 5324. The dodging is the crime whether or not the cash was ever dirty. So what does that look like on your screen? An alert. 5 lumps, same account, all just under the line. Too clean to be real. So you do what your job demands. You draft a suspicious activity report, a SAR, and quietly send it to the government. And by law, the customer is never allowed to know you filed it. Tipping them off is its own crime. And now here's the catch that the movies never show you. Filing the report doesn't freeze anything. The deposit still clears. The account still works. The bank files its paperwork and moves on, and the money is in the system. That's stage 1 done. Look, one number to hold on to. In 2012, one bank paid the U.S. $1,900 million to settle laundering charges. Not one executive went to prison. The fine was a cost of doing business. Now the money's in a bank account, but it's one step from a car wash that screams laundering. So how do you break that link? Now stage 2 is where you scramble the trail. This is layering, and it's where most of the real work happens. You move the money through so many hops that the dirty starting point disappears under a mountain of ordinary-looking paperwork. First hop, a shell company you can set up in an afternoon for a few $100s. The car wash pays the shell company for consulting work that never happened. On paper, money owed for services. In reality, you paying yourself. Real on paper, empty in real life. A name, a mailbox, a nominee director. Someone paid a small fee to sign and ask nothing. You open the empty office behind the mailbox. There's nothing there. A door, a mailbox, a nameplate, that's the whole company. Then the money jumps again, out of the shell company and into a lawyer's office. And why is this hop the cleanest one of all? One boring piece of plumbing most people have never heard of. Lawyers hold client money in something called a trust account, in ERLTA. It's meant for completely honest things. Escrow on a house, a settlement check, a retainer up front. But the launderer wires his shell company money in as a so-called retainer, and it sits in the trust account mixed with real client funds. When it comes back out, it's a payment from a law firm. Now it looks like a legal fee, not crime cash. And here's the part that should bother you. A bank gets watched constantly. A lawyer's trust account barely gets watched at all. And the professional handling it? The perfect launderer. He's got a license and a reputation that make everything he touches look clean. FATF has a whole report on these people. Professional launderers. Networks that sell laundering as a service to anyone with dirty cash. They'll also fake trade. An invoice says the shipment's worth $2 million. The goods inside are worth $200,000. That gap, $1.8 million, quietly crosses a border as a real-looking trade. However it's done, by the time the money leaves the trust account, it's a clean wire from a respectable firm. Nobody's asking about a car wash anymore. Watch how the same dollar changes its name at every hop. Same dollar, start to finish, 4 different names, and by the end, 0 fingerprints left on it. Now the dirty money's a clean wire from a law firm. Time for stage 3. So where does 40 grand a week finally land? In something real. Once it's an asset, the laundering is officially done. This is integration. The money finally comes back to the launderer wearing a brand new face as a clean, legitimate, ownable asset. And the classic move is real estate. It's quiet, it holds value, and you can buy it without ever showing your face. The condo doesn't get bought by a person. It gets bought by the shell company, the LLC. All cash. All cash means no mortgage, no lender, and no bank running its own checks on the buyer. Just a wire and a signature. And here's the thing. For decades, this was the wide-open loophole in American real estate. An anonymous LLC could buy a condo all cash, and nobody at the closing table had to write down who actually owned it. You walk the asset itself. The clean money made physical. $2 million of crime cash is now a $2 million home with a deed and an address, owned by a company that's owned, on paper, by absolutely nobody you can find. He can live in it, rent it out, or sell it next year. And that sale produces a perfectly clean, perfectly legal check. The cycle's closed. So did the system ever try to close this door? It tried. The Treasury's Financial Crimes Unit, FinCEN, finalized a rule aimed straight at the all-cash real estate loophole. The idea was simple. Title companies would finally have to report who really owns the LLC. But here's where it gets frustrating. The rule got delayed, then a federal court struck it down, and it's now tangled up on appeal. So right now, the loophole's still open. An anonymous LLC can still buy that condo all cash, and nobody writes down who's behind it. So who actually connects all 6 of these rooms? That's where you end up. Every suspicious activity report you filed flows into one place, the Financial Intelligence Unit at FinCEN. And so does every report the lawyer's bank and the title company filed, each one a separate piece. Alone, each report was noise. Laid on top of each other, they draw a single line, car wash to shell company to lawyer to title company to condo. So you pull the thread and the whole knot comes loose. The shell company's registered agent, the lawyer's trust ledger, the all-cash deed, and they all point at the same condo. And then the whole chain goes to a courtroom. And what does all this abstraction finally cost? Here's where it gets real numbers. In federal court, money laundering isn't a slap on the wrist. It carries serious time. The Sentencing Commission's own published numbers put the average federal laundering sentence in years, not months. This is real prison time. And beyond the sentence, the court can seize the asset itself. You watch the forfeiture order get signed. The condo, that nice clean asset, gets handed straight to the government. So here's the worldview shift. The system did catch it. But look at when each defense actually fired. The report fired, the alert tripped, the rule triggered, and every one of them landed after the money had already moved to the next room. The whole machine is built to catch laundering in the rearview mirror, to reconstruct the trip after it's over. By design, it sees the dollar clearly only once it's already clean and already spent. So that's the trick nobody tells you. Money laundering isn't one clever crime by one clever criminal. It's a relay race handed off room to room, and the system chasing it is always one lap behind. Subscribe if you want the next one, because there's a lot more hidden in plain sight than anybody tells you. Because the dollar itself was never the problem. The distance the dollar can travel before anyone is allowed to look. That's the system, and that's where the hidden part lives.